Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority.
105.9 FM.
And AM 630.
WMAL.
7:37 on the Morning Majority. Brian Neiman and Mary Catherine Ham here. Brian Wilson out today. I think he was just singing too much Whitney over
Probably.
the weekend, and
We all were.
it's clearly out of his range, and so he had to take a rest on the throat today. We're talking to HILARY ROSEN this morning, former president and chairman of the Recording Industry Association of America. Good morning, HILARY.
Good morning. How are you, Mary Catherine?
Hey, good. We were talking about, just sort of how Whitney Houston music plays into our childhood and how we grew up, and she was just so ubiquitous with so many hits. But from a radio industry and recording artist industry perspective, how groundbreaking was she?
She was the best-selling female artist of all time. I think that record's now been broken, actually, by Mariah Carey. But, the thing about Whitney is that she was such a global artist. I mean, for instance, when I Will Always Love You was a hit, it wasn't just number one in the U.S., it was the number one song in every single country around the world where it was released. So, when you take that kind of a voice and turn it universal, that really gives you a sense of kind of the power of her appeal.
All right, there, a lot of people are saying this morning, hey, Bobby Brown had a hand in this, and that had she never met Bobby Brown, we wouldn't be here at this time. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I just don't think that's fair. I don't know the intricacies of their marriage or anything, but look, addiction is a very powerful thing, and as we all know, it affects chemicals affect different people differently. Some people can start out with the same amount of drugs, and one person will get addicted and one person won't. I mean, that's just the nature of this disease, and we have to treat it like a disease and not throw blame and just try and help folks.
So what was the it's tough because she died the day before the Grammys, obviously a huge deal. What was the mission of the Grammys in honoring her last night and a way to do that in the proper way?
Well, I thought Jennifer Hudson was stunning, and from friends who were there earlier in the day, it was apparently a really tough performance for her. She broke down even a few times in rehearsals. But they needed to make it thoughtful but modest, because it couldn't take over the whole night.
Right.
I don't think that people close to Whitney thought that Whitney would have wanted that. There will obviously be a major tribute event to Whitney in the future. But, last night was about music for everyone, and celebrating Whitney, I think, was just a part of that.
That's a tough spot for Jennifer Hudson, obviously, because Whitney meant so much to her, and to sing I Will Always Love You, which is such a difficult song to sing anyway, but to sing it live, the day after she died, I mean, that is just a tough spot to be in.
It is, and but the first time that she sang that song was actually right here in Washington, D.C., in honor of Whitney. When Whitney was honored a couple of years ago by BET, Jennifer Hudson gave her the award and sang that song in her honor, and I was there that night. It was magical, and Whitney clearly loved her performance.
Well, the other headline out of last night was Adele coming home with quite a few Grammys, and I did not know this. I don't know how I'm totally out of the loop, but apparently she had surgery on her throat, or had rested her voice for a long period of time. Does it look like she's back in full force?
Mary Catherine, you are out of the loop.
It was. I didn't, and I normally...
That was kind of the biggest story in the music.
I know.
Even
and
I knew that, HILARY.
For the last year, right.
And I read a lot of celebrity news, and I totally missed this.
She canceled her tour last year, big worldwide tour. She was on the brink of major superstardom in terms of money and attention and new album deals and the whole shebang when she got these throat problems. So her reappearance last night, I think you could really see the audience pulling for her. She's a raw talent. She's an amazing talent, and boy, she's just got an amazing career ahead of her. I'm just a huge fan.
Yeah, she's great. Where is the state of music in your mind today?
Let's separate the music industry from music.
Okay, fair enough.
By every measure, music is as important to people today as it ever was. There's more music being consumed. There's more new music out there. But I do think it's fair to say that the music industry has gone through a really tumultuous decade. in terms of its business model and piracy and how artists get paid. I mean, for the most part now, successful artists end up making all of their money on the road. And if you're that kind of artist, or if you're that member of a band or a songwriter where you can't take your craft on the road, you've got a tougher time making a living. So the whole nature of the industry is really changing. But the essence of music itself as a fan, hopefully will never change.
Does that mean that if you're a singer-songwriter, it may be more difficult for you to sustain and to, keep coming up with hits because you're not going to get paid as much versus, big rock groups that may be able to sell out arenas?
It makes it more trying, although the irony is that if you're a songwriter, as you know from radio, you do get paid when your music gets played on the radio. Not if you're the singer, only if you're the songwriter, which is just a quirk in the copyright law. But so it's really singers that have hard time, and yet it's interestingly singers are the fans that are the artists that people know. That's what brings the song to life.
As somebody who's a watcher of the music industry and a fan of music, what is your take on what's the best music reality show? The Voice, American Idol. We've also got Glee, which is not a reality show. But what's your favorite these days?
I'm loving The Voice these days. I just feel like it's not that there's less hype. I love the idea of the coaches rather than judges. Really just sitting back and listening to the music and to the artist's voice without looking at them, without prejudice, without anything up front, and then sort of turning around and getting that dramatic moment of putting it all together. I just find that much more authentic.
Well, cool. Thanks. See, recommendations.
I know. Hilary, it's great to have you on. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.